where we explore tips, tricks, and strategies to live a more awesome life. I'm your host, Jim Kellner. Today, I'm joined by a good friend of mine, a colleague, really just an all-around swell fella. Everybody give a round of applause for Andy Vargo.
Thanks for having me on, Jim.
You're welcome. I keep meaning to load up a what do they call that? An applause track or something. But
yeah,
anyway,
I was hearing it in my head.
Okay, good. Here's a lot of things in his head from what I understand.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, I just want to let you know, if you're watching this right now, it is about 11 o'clock Pacific on November 18th, 2020. If you're watching right now, we're taking your questions. Be sure to just drop your messages down in the chat. Also, let us know that you can hear us and that you're watching. When you watch this show today, you're going to find out about a lot of things. Andy's going to share a bit about his story from living a lie for many, many years, how he helps people to own their awkward. And also, we're going to talk about his new book on mastering change, which is a really exciting topic. Andy, will you be kind enough to just tell the folks at home a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am a life coach, a motivational speaker. That really developed out of coming to terms with the changes I needed to make in my own life. And as I grew older and more comfortable with myself, I realized I needed to come out of the closet and say I'm gay. And one of the things that was a big deal for me was that I was not okay accepting myself or owning my, I like to say. And I have just found so much growth for myself and so much the most rewarding work helping others. And so now I'm just on a mission to help people own their awkward and be the best that they can be by being okay with themselves. I'm not about saying you need to do this and change that and live this other life. You need to be able to be okay with the things that make you the amazing person you are. And so that's my mission, what I do.
Awesome. So Andy, let me help us understand. So who would come to you? Why would somebody come to you for your coaching or maybe the your motivational talk? What would kind of make them want to work with you?
So typically anybody who's facing some sort of change. I position as a lifestyle change coach, meaning that if you are having some sort of meaningful change in your life, for me, that has been coming out, losing a job, career change, divorce, relationship changes, relocation, anything where you are finding yourself now out of your comfort zone and really to help life changes is what I like to refer to myself as. Just
nice.
Having that extra, it's like, okay, and bring you back to the solid ground to approach the change in the way is most successful for you.
That's awesome. I love that wingman for life changes. That's awesome.
Yeah, it makes it a little more fun.
Hey, speaking of awesome, could you just stand up and show everybody your shirt real quick?
All right. So here's my Own Your Awkward, and that is my new logo. So
love it.
I don't want to stand up all the way because I feel like I'd bump the screen.
Right.
But yeah, that's my new logo. I had more, and it's really felt good to that. I told the designer something retro and fun, but still professional and modern, but still not outdated. And she captured everything with the growth of the letters, the forward movement. It was a really great process to go through.
That's awesome. I really. What a great thing. And hey, Timothy McIntosh says, this is awesome. Love Jim Kellner and Andy Vargo. I love you too, Timothy.
Hey, he's awesome.
Thank you so much. Yeah, he's awesome. Check him out. He also goes by a great stage name, which is Marina Mac.
Marina Mac.
Wow, which was escaped me for a minute. Marina Mac.
Tim does amazing work where, you got to check him out. He does some pretty cool stuff with makeup, and it's beautiful.
Oh, the makeup is unbelievable. Unbelievable. You can't even, Marina Mac, go check it out. Find it on Facebook and everything. Andy, I love this topic because, I think so many people are going through life and they're trying to fit in, and it's so hard to fit in. They're kind of hiding from their awkwardness or their that kind of feeling.
That's true. And the big realization for myself, I was in a corporate job for years, and I was seemingly successful. I was checking all the boxes. I was taking on more responsibility. My sales were growing. And I was constantly reading these self-help books on, I need to implement this process. I need to do that. And I think there's a lot of value in the self-help market. And I don't want to knock that, especially since that's the type I'm working on writing. However, the problem that enters is when you need to change yourself. And the difference that I realized, I needed to change how I thought about myself and not actually who I was. And I didn't need to change my person. I needed to change the way I dealt with and accepted my person.
So it's almost like the antithesis of most of the stuff out there for personal development, because I think so much of it is change this, and you'll if you read more and exercise more, do this more and that more, then you'll finally be happy or satisfied or whatever.
And I guess the line that I put on it myself is, don't bring anything in that changes your values or your core principles, but be willing to accept things that change practices and behaviors. So if you can find something that is a practice to a behavior, a change, maybe your core values are to live healthy, enacting enough exercising or healthy eating. So stick to that value of living a more healthy life, but go ahead and make changes that support what you believe in. And I think sometimes we see how people are, and we start to line up with at our core being. Maybe they're to the finances when we really just want to have a content family lifestyle and not chase career goals, or vice versa.
It's such a great point too, and I've been guilty of this myself of talking about doing these things, and you'll be happy or go after this dream, whatever. And I think though that when it comes right down to it, I've seen this before. Why are you going? And so now I try to work when I'm working with clients. So why do you want to do this? What's your why? And maybe you don't have to do this to get that, because so many times what people really want is just to be happy or to be accepted, and you don't necessarily have to go, be a prolific author like Andy or go after that corporate dream job, right?
Exactly. And I think you hit it right on the head when you say, what's your why? I know that's a big buzz thing. We hear Simon Sinek talk about that. And it is an important thing, but even deeper than that is questioning why you have that why. Like, why is that important? What are the factors of it that are part of why you think that's important? Because if it's from outside forces and it's because society says I need to have X, Y, and Z, or I need to look this way, then those aren't the right reasons to pursue it. But if you really feel joy when you're pursuing something, if you really feel successful in the pursuit of what you're going after, that's actually where the feeling of success comes in, is in the work we're doing towards that dream. When you get to the end of that marathon, or whatever it is you've been working, a lot of times we have this emptiness because we're no longer training or putting in the work. And the fulfillment came in growth. And if that feels good and that feels joyous and brings you a lot of happiness, then you're on the right track.
That's such a great point, because and it's funny too. I saw something recently that said, be grateful for where you're at, because there was a time when you dreamed about being where you're at right now, most likely. If you're sort of on your journey.
Yeah.
It was literally your goal before.
And I remember when I first published my first guided journal, and it was out there in the world, and people were downloading it and giving me positive feedback about it, and I should feel working towards, but I didn't have anything lined up to do next. And so I remember waking up in the morning and going, okay, so I'm a published author now. This was the big dream. Same person. I look in the mirror. I still eat the same food. Like, there is no major change. I'm living in the same house. So what was? And I came to understand, but a little bit more reflection and read it in the work and that you have to you're doing. I love helping people. When I get a letter from someone that says, "Hey, I read your blog," or "I watched your video and it helped me get up the courage to talk to parents and say that I'm gay," or it helped me get out of ship. To me, that's worth so much more than any money I would ever make, in my, because that's why I do this. And that just feels so good.
It's amazing. If you're out there and you're called to this kind of work, what Andy said, I mean, I agree completely. It really is. It's almost like, it's like probably you get the same thing, like almost every single day you get some kind of feedback, whether somebody comments on a post or sends you an email, does a review, and you go, and you don't think that you're making a big difference, but you are in a lot of people's lives.
Right. And we never know what impact we'll make, whether you're in a public position or not. You smile at somebody the right way, you give them a compliment, that catalyst to them help somebody else, or putting some positive energy into someone, which has this ripple effect, and for me, I see it very publicly because of the work I do, and you do as well. You're working one-on-one specifically with the design to help somebody, but it doesn't even have to be that big for it to be impactful.
Doesn't, right. Oh wow, what a great point, Andy. I mean, it really just that smiling at the postal clerk, or complimenting your spouse or something. I mean, it can just change the way somebody's day. And what a ripple effect too. I was just thinking, you smile at the postal clerk, and then maybe they're a little extra nicer to the next person that they, this creates this ripple, as opposed to the opposite, where you're grumpy with them and then they're grumpy, and we have the negative ripple.
Yeah. And, we all have those bad days. And one of the things I like to do when I am putting things out into the world, I like to take a moment to pause and reflect on, what am I giving to the world? If I feel lonely and depressed and sad, I could write a post that says, "God, isn't it sad that nobody's around today and I'm sitting here alone?" Or I could write a post that say, "I'm really thankful for the people that are in my life that I do get to see when I get to see them." And it totally changes my own perception, and it changes the idea of what I'm putting into the world. And even if I'm feeling bad, if I can focus on the good, then I feel like I am doing more positive for the world. So it's, that smile makes a big difference.
And I got to admit, I'm a bit guilty of that. that sort of kind of posting things on social media that, like the jackwagon that cut me off, or the store click,
right.
And I'm trying to shift that a little bit, because it's not really how I live. I just think those things are funny, and I like to share funny things. But really, I think sending that out into the world, and you mentioned something that made me think of something that I'm reminded of frequently, because I went through terrible bouts of depression. I think you did too, right?
Yeah, I did.
I mean, life-threatening depression. I mean, I'm seriously, life-threatening depression. Yeah. I remember reading one time and I wish I could find this article, and I've tried as I might, I can't seem to find the article again. But it said that there was many great leaders throughout history. In fact, the one that really stands out was Abraham Lincoln, who went through terrible episodes of depression. And what a lot of these people decided was, I don't want to say their life didn't matter, but what they would do is they would forget all their other goals, whatever, but they would try to make the world a better place.
Oh, yeah.
And what you said kind of made me think about that, because, when we're helping others, it's almost like you can't help but be helped yourself.
Right. Yeah. And that's a lot of times I feel selfish in what I do, because I'm helping someone else, but I get the most reward out of it. I'm and someone else is. I read one time that the value of a favor or of a good deed at the time that it's given is valued much less by the person giving the favor and much more by the person receiving it. And over time, unfortunately, that value shift. If I lend a book to you, it's no big deal for me to lend that book to you. And I'm like, "Hey, I have it, here it is." And you're so grateful for it. Well, pretty soon, if I start asking for that book back, I start value on the fact that you have my book, you haven't given it back for me. I went out of my way to get it to you. And you're like, "Really? Get off my back. It's no big deal, just a book." And staying in that place of the value of what we're doing important, and remembering remembering what other people are doing for us and what we can. I think that helps when you get into those dark places of the fact that it can be a small act, but it could be valued very greatly by somebody else.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to thank Timothy for chiming in. You know, we have a tendency to. He says we have a tendency to want to help so many people. However, we forget to help ourselves, and he's guilty of that. I'm
very
guilty of it.
true. Yeah, that's very true.
I think a lot of us are. One of the big things that you know, I run into with clients sometimes is, you know, they can't make the time for this or that, and it's because they're helping everybody else. You know, and it's tough. I mean, there is that old saying, you know, you can't pour from an empty cup, but it's hard in the daily practice, I think, sometimes for people to get that. It's not to get it, but to implement.
That's something I've never been good at. Is never been good at setting aside that time. I'm trying to be better on that, and that's in my book. Is I have a budget that is your time budget, and I've had to actually step back a couple times and remind myself to kind of take my own medicine and say, okay, you can't tell everybody, oh, I can do this, I want to do that, I want to help here. And then at the end of the week, you know, you only have 168 hours in a week, and I've just promised 180 hours. And all of a sudden I wonder why I'm overwhelmed and can't keep up. And it's because I run my mouth too much and say, sure.
Having good boundaries is essential, isn't it?
It is. So every once in a while I take a step back and think, okay, every time I am telling somebody I will do something now, I am purposely assigning a time amount to it that I expect it to take, and then adding it to my calendar as a task of, okay, this should be about an hour. So I can say, Jim, I'd love to do that for you. I'm not going to have time until next Wednesday. If that works, I'll set the time aside, rather than what I used to do is, oh yeah, I'd love to do that. I'll get on it as soon as I can. And then all of a sudden, as soon as I can is 2 weeks later, and you really needed it in 5 days. And if I would have told you, well, I can do it, but it won't be for 2 weeks, you would have been, thanks, I appreciate you being able to, but I can't, you know, it'll be too late. So
Andy, I got to tell you, I hope everybody, that is an excellent tip right there. And I'm writing that one down. Because
I might need to write it down too, so that I stick with it.
What a great way to look at it, because it is easy, especially if you're the kind of person that wants to help people. You keep wanting to say yes. But I think that, I don't think I've ever put a time. I've estimated the time amount and when I could accomplish it. In fact, we're going to get to Andy's book in just a second, and I want to talk about that. You know, he asked me to write something about it. I was fortunate. I was one of the first people to read the book, and it's an amazing book. I highly recommend it. And it's funny because when I accepted, you know, I said yes, I'd love to do that, and then about a month later, 6 weeks later, I was like, oh no, Andy, I'm so sorry. When did you need this? Was it? And he said, fortunately, he said, well, I don't need it for a few more weeks or something. And then finally, I got it to him, but it would have been good if I would have said, hey, when do you need this by? And then made that determination.
And that actually is, I did that process from one of the people. I asked, you know, 3 or 4 people, 4 people to write for the back of my book. And one of them said, I would love to, but there was, if the time frame is in a matter of weeks, I won't be able to. In a matter of months, I'll have time. And I back with, well, I was really hoping for 4 to 6 weeks, which technically is a little more than a month. Maybe that'll work. And it did work out, but it was one of those moments where I thought I need to implement that myself and do that.
Right. Yeah. What a great technique. And, you know, like I've said so many times before, one of the great things about my life is that I get to meet awesome, amazing people. And Andy is one of those people. And like I said, I got the opportunity to check out his book first. Actually, before I get into, I've got to know, because this is something, this is big for me. It took me like months and months to write to co-write a book. Andy's, was this your 5th book now? Is that?
Well, I did 5 guided journals. And so those are, I like to call them mostly blank books, because they're a format that you follow and there's tips every day. but those are a little less intense. And then I wrote one book that was about stories of being a rideshare driver, because I did that while I was getting my business off the ground. So this is technically my 7th book that I've published.
Wow.
But this one is the most important to me. It's my baby.
So how do you do that? How do you get 7 out there in the world?
Well, I've probably started writing 100 books, at least in my head. And actually, when I was working on the journals, the first time that I published one, when I sat down to do that, I remember starting it out as a idea for another idea for a book, and I'm like, here I go again. And I remember being frustrated with myself because I had started several books. I have document after document in my laptop that are things I started in. I got the first chapter written or the outline or different forms, and some of them, I have 2 or 3 books that are all varying stages of being complete.
Yeah,
and I remember realizing that I'm a starter and not a finisher, and so I actually had to put a practice in place. I have a notebook I keep with me every day with my to-do list, and in the back I keep notes. But the very back couple pages are my idea pages. And what I had to start doing was every time I have an idea for something new, I won't allow myself to start it until I finish something that's already being worked on the list. Yeah. And so that's when I actually started being a lot more productive, because I would have these great ideas and it's like, oh, I need to jump on this because I get very enthusiastic about it and I need to control that about myself. So now I put the idea in the back of the notebook so it's not lost and the idea is still there. And I won't allow myself to start it until I finish one of the ideas that I'm already working on. And that's what kind of pushed me through getting the journals done. And from there, I thought, okay, well, what's the next most important idea to finish up? And then I take the next thing, and that was the book about being a rideshare driver. And I also had to give up the idea of writing something very big and focus on each individual chapter. More like you're writing a blog article. It's okay, I just need to write this much, get this many ideas together. And once I have enough ideas, I can figure out how to pull those together into a book.
That's a great way of looking at it. I do keep looking at, like, I've got to write this whole book instead of just, hey, I just got to write a blog article, Right. It's basically a chapter or two. Yeah. What a great strategy.
And typically what I do is once I have maybe a third to two, anywhere from a third to half of the book where I have those different articles written, then I start to kind of sit down and organize them in a framework to realize how would this play out? What would be the flow? And from there, I can look for holes where I might say, well, I don't have anything that covers this, or this should be before that. And then I can purposely write to fill in the blanks.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, I want to give a shout out to Tim Barlin. Thanks for watching. He got some good ideas here. I think it was about the time, how long it's going to take. I want to just let you all know, if you're watching right now, it's about 11 something on the whatever day it was. I forgot to tell you, the 18th, November 18th. Please comment below. Also, if you're watching either now or later on YouTube or whatever, please give us a like, a share, comment, subscribe. Go to Andy's website, awkwardcareer.com. And now we're going to get into what I'm really excited about, because Andy has just come out with a new book, and it's called The Complete Handbook for Mastering Change, right?
Yeah, it's Own Your Awkward Life Changes, The Complete Handbook for Mastering Change.
Right. And I got to tell you, it's interesting. I've read a lot of personal development books, but I've never actually read one like this one. And some of the points you made in it were so awesome, because one of the things that I was number one, he's got like all these charts and prompts and things like that for you to kind of go through and figure out how you feel about change, how you've dealt with change. One of the things that I thought was cool was that you pointed out that sometimes when you're hoping for a change, you're trying to make a change happen, you're not looking at the whole picture. How is your life going to change? Who's going to be affected? Are there negatives? Right. And how can you kind of address those negatives? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So first of all, I'll just show this is what the book looks like. So this is a proof copy, so it's got a little stripe across the front, but that'll be it's a fun book. So when you look at one of the things that we try to do is make you really step back and look at your position in the change that you're facing, because change is happening all the time. And the whole idea of the book is to get yourself into the ideal position to deal with the change so that you can take control of it. And when you look at situations where we're facing a change, a lot of times you think, I'm excited about getting promoted at work. That's a very noble goal. It makes sense. You're going to make more income. Yet, if we don't step back and look at how that really is going to impact our lifestyle, we might not be happy with that change. And I think a lot of times we end up in a place where we've achieved a goal or we've realized a change that we thought we wanted, but we didn't take into consideration how that would impact the rest of our life. So for the example of getting promoted at work, you may be putting in more hours now, and that may be pulling you away from your kids or your spouse. Mm-hmm. And then your relationship is strained because you're pursuing what you thought was what you wanted in life. And in reality, it may have been more important to you to make less money, but have a happier family and have more time with your kids. And asking those questions up front to realize, is this really going to be what I want? Is it going to strain my relationship with my coworkers if I get promoted above them and these are people that I was friends with? Is it going to change that dynamic and make work less fun? And not that these are necessarily things that say don't walk away from it and don't pursue. However, be aware of what you're going to step into so that when you get to that place, you're not playing this victimized, shocked, oh my gosh, here's another thing that didn't work out in my life, and now people are not happy with me, and I'm just trying to get ahead, and all the things that we put out there that are not us taking any responsibility for the decisions we're making, but actually asking, how is that really going to affect all the other aspects of our lives outside of ourselves?
Excellent. Hey, thanks for watching, G-Ray. Hope y'all are liking, commenting, sharing, all that good stuff. And subscribe if you're on YouTube, please. And also, Andy, you've got a YouTube channel, right?
Yes, it's Andy Vargo, Awkward Career. And I post sometimes they're funny videos, sometimes they're deep and insightful, and sometimes they're mixed with both. But I love just having fun and not taking life too serious, but still, being meaningful and positive.
Fantastic. Go subscribe to his channel as well. Andy, and again, I just want to, I think I wrote some stuff about this in the writing that I sent you, but if you're out there, I think it's just so important that when you're going through this, one of the things too that I kind of mentioned this before, but being able to look back at how you've dealt with change in the past, because like you said, people sometimes are surprised. Oh, mm-hmm. I got my goal, but I'm surprised now. But being able to look at that and here's the thing. So many people ponder these things, or they even get anxious about it, right? You start getting mm-hmm. anxious. But when you break it down, like Andy does here with his prompts and the charts and things like this, I think it makes for more organized thinking, which is helpful. And you said something that I thought was interesting too. I remember when I really wanted to teach massage therapy full time, and I finally got that, but unfortunately it was from 3 to 11. And so it did have an impact on my relationship with my kids.
Yeah.
And if I would have thought about that, I might have done things differently. If I had really given that some thought about, okay, I do want this, but am I willing to give up, that some of the relationship didn't cost the relationship, but certainly had an impact. My son and I were taking martial arts. Before that, I was doing stand-up comedy and stuff, and I had to stop both. Mm-hmm. So, it's not.
Yeah, it gives you the chance to really decide, is the value of what you're getting worth what you're paying for it? And we do that financially when we look at things, but we tend to not apply that to decisions we're making in our life when we're giving up our time, which is even more valuable than the money we have when you look at how limited it is, and the fact that time is the one socialist budget we have where everybody has the same amount, and you all get the same, and you can pick and choose capitalistically within that what you do with it. But it is so it really makes it more valuable. And really, the book is designed to position you. It's all about positioning you to manage your relationship with change. And when you look at one of the things that I talk about, it's the very first in the beginning of the book, is this ocean of change that we're in, and how there are 3 ways that change comes upon us. One is that creeping tide that just sneaks in, and before you know it, you're waist deep in water, and you didn't realize all these shifts and changes were happening around you until you're getting dragged out to sea and you're overwhelmed. And those are the ones that sometimes are the most dangerous. The ones that are very shocking is when it's like a tsunami and it just slaps you over the head and throws you out into the ocean, and you have no control over it because it just overwhelms you. But the best chance for change, and what the book is designed to do, is that no matter how you encounter change, is that you get in the position of the third way that change happens. And that's when you're standing on the shore and you're planning to go out on a voyage, and you're packing your ship with all the essentials because you're going to set out and make change happen. And no matter how the change starts, we want to get you back to that place so that the next places when you chart your course are in your control as much as possible.
That's excellent. Andy, where can people find the book?
So you can find it right now on my website at awkwardcareer.com. There's a pre-link that will help that you can order a hard copy if you like. The electronic book, I did something a little different. So right now the electronic book is already available. You can get it on, there's a link through my site, but it's purchased through Amazon to get the ebook like a Kindle. And then the hardback will be available in the next few weeks. So you can pre-order a copy now. There's some savings there if you do that, and then I'll mail it out to you, or you can also just check back in and get it that way as well.
That's awesome. Thanks, Andy. Andy, as we sort of come to the close of this, I always ask my guests, what are 3 things that we can all start doing right now to live a more awesome life? I forgot to remind you ahead of time, so if it takes you a second, but could you come up? Now, you've already given us some stuff, but can you just kind of summarize and give us 3 tips to live a more awesome life?
Yeah, I think that the first tip is just to appreciate, be appreciative of what's around you. Take a few moments every day to pay attention to what you have, no matter what's going on. Really appreciate the people in your life. You may have one friend and you think you need 10, but don't go searching for the 9 and give up the 1. Just really take a moment to really be appreciative for what you have, and that will help that grow even more because you really come to understand that. The second thing is to understand that change is always going to be happening, and let that be seen as just a neutral thing. And whenever something happens, whether you've changed your job or you had to relocate, or someone new is your boss, all it is a new boundary and parameters within which you need to learn how to be successful. And so a change happens, and now you're in a different scenario. And so how do we become most successful in that scenario and give up hanging on to the idea of not being able to control the change itself? And the third thing, and this is the base of all of my journals, is really to pick 3 things for yourself. Every day, just write down at night what 3 things can tomorrow to make it a better day. And it can be as simple as get up on time, go for a walk, call a friend or a family member and have a conversation. Just very simple things that are going to make your day more powerful, more enjoyable, and give you the power to control how you feel in that day.
That's awesome. Thank you, Andy. So, as always, I always encourage everyone, it's really tough to implement a lot of change all at once. But if you could pick just one of these things that Andy's talking about, do it for the next week, then add another one. I think you're going to find yourself living a more awesome life, and it won't even be that difficult. So let me run through those again. He says, appreciate what you have. So simple. Keep a gratitude list, or just run through in your head or something, I'm guessing. Right, Andy?
Mm-hmm.
Like that. The change is always happening. Here's the thing, everybody. This is what I've noticed is as we get older, we tend to become more resistant to change. Generally, not always, but for most of us. And if you've ever walked into the grocery store and gotten pissed off because they changed things around, this is what's going on, okay?
I was just thinking of that in my head, that I'm now that guy that goes in the grocery store like, where'd the peanut butter go?
I remember walking through one of the stores that they just redone completely with a friend, and she got angry about it. It's just okay. Yeah. So just be aware that as you get older, there's a likelihood that you're going to become more set in your ways. You're not going to want to change. And so but change is always going to happen. So you can either go with the flow or you can get frustrated by it. And then I love this, Andy. This is great. Pick 3 things tonight that you can do tomorrow to live a more awesome life. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Andy, what did I not ask you that you'd like me to have asked you, or what else would you like to say about, your book or your work or anything like that?
Oh, I think we've covered everything very well. I would just say I'm very accessible. I have on my website, there's a link, it links directly to my calendar. So if anybody wants to just have a discovery call or catch up and run something by me, you can do it right there. It'll find a free time on my calendar so that I can have you have my full undivided attention. I really love just working with people and hearing and let's connect.
Andy has got a lot of ways, like you say, he's very accessible. There's a lot of ways for you to get value out of the work that he's doing. You can follow him on Facebook, Andy Vargo, as you can see it on the screen. If you're listening on Blog Talk Radio later, it's Andy, Vargo. He's got the books. He's got the website. He's got personal sessions. He does motivational talks for when this thing's over, or maybe a virtual talk if that's your thing out there. Are you doing any virtual talks, Andy?
I'm doing some. I've actually put together, and this is kind of exciting. I put together a virtual corporate retreat where we do an online, motivational talk, and then we have breakout sessions between talks with exercises the whole time. And that's actually been really fun because now, pandemic aside, if a corporation is set up globally, they can bring their leaders together virtually without the expense of, renting a facility. And we have breakout sessions with either teams or individually, depending on the size of the group. And that's been a lot of fun. I've done a couple of those, and then had a couple virtual speaking opportunities. But I really do look forward to when it's back in the room and you just that camaraderie and that you're going through that experience. You just can't beat in person, but we also can't give up on moving forward just because we don't have it either.
That is such a good point. I think that so many of us maybe are still in this place of, well, I don't want to do a Zoom, like people with the hypnosis, for instance. Well, I really prefer to do an in-person session. That's not available right now. I'm sorry.
Right.
You can either give up or you can adapt and change, because as Darwin said something, it's not the strongest. I always thought it was, the strongest survive. It's actually the most adaptable.
Right. I love that you included that quote. And in fact, I went back and put in bigger above when I put your writing in the book. I added that quote in as one of my quotes because it's so very true, and it makes us aware of our role in being able to allow change to happen in our lives.
Yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to. There's no choice. So you might as well get used to it. And things. And this is something. This is something that I realized. A while back, I was still for I think the first 6 months or so, I was still like, well, okay, I'm things are going to get back to normal soon. And then finally, it was like, I don't know when things are going to come back to normal. I don't know if it's going to be more months, more years before I can do a comedy hypnosis show or an in-person speaking engagement. So I need to adapt, and I'm developing new tools and new attitudes and stuff. So it's a good thing in the long run, I think.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, if you view it as, well, I'm only doing this right because the other isn't available, I don't think you'll find the value that you find in, well, if I develop my online presence or my ability to talk on Zoom or offer more digital offerings into my business, then when I am able to add back in the live events, now my business has doubled in offerings, or I've expanded to a more complete business because the things that you're doing now don't have to go away.
Thank you. Wow, Andy, that you just blew my mind. I was, and it's true, because I have started offering. I have more digital offerings now, more recordings than ever, more online trainings, which I'd wanted to do anyway, but I hadn't gotten around to it because I was too busy doing other stuff.
Right. I had my journals I had wanted to have, and COVID forced the issue because I thought, I don't know at the beginning of this if people are going to print books, if people are going to order books. how quickly they'll get shipped. And so my first immediate focus was, well, these are all things I've wanted to do. So now I have the time magically. So there's no excuse to not do them.
Yeah. I love what G-Ray said there. You have to ask yourself, are you ready to spend this time, energy, and whatever else to be successful? Being an entrepreneur isn't the easiest road. It really isn't.
And when I've polled friends last year, I asked, are you more afraid of failure or success? And it was actually very mixed, with a slight leaning towards more people being afraid of success. So that's a really good.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm reminded of and if you're an entrepreneur, this message is for you. I'm reminded of an entrepreneur, a writer, and an artist, and we were doing some coaching, and she finally said, I can't take the time out to write this blog article because I feel like I'm not getting paid for it, so I'm wasting my time. And I'm like, if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to spend a lot of wasted time, but it's not wasted. Right. That's marketing. That's you can either spend the money or you can do the work.
Yeah.
You find that too, Andy?
Yeah, I actually, when I first started, jumping into this more business, I would get frustrated about not making dollars. And, my best friend, we have therapy every Sunday. We go for a jog and we just talk out our problems for the week. And it's coffee and jogging and therapy. And I remember her saying to me, you need to find another way to measure success that's not monetary, whether it's likes or growth. And that really hit home. And I really had to come back to that a lot, where, growing the brand, growing the asset, growing your presence has to be seen as success. And it can't just be, did I make $50 today? Did 100 instead of 50? Did I make it to 500? Because you're going to see this. You're always going to be disappointed. And even when you get to a certain level, you're probably not going to be happy until you pass previous numbers.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, it's all about the learning process, and you get better and better at it. And you're developing more muscle. The faster you can write a blog article, the better you can do other things too. And I just want to say, so we talked about Tim earlier, Timothy McIntosh and Marina Mack does a lot of great videos, makeup videos and stuff. Probably not getting paid for all of those, but it's right. Leading to other work. It's the marketing process. If you're a hypnotist out there and you need to write a blog or do videos, that kind of stuff, it's part of the marketing. You can either pay someone to do that, or you can do the work yourself. And when you're first starting out, it's pretty tough to be paying somebody to do it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And it's not your authentic voice then either. I want to say thank you, Sandy, she says she embraces her weirdness. If you're listening later, we're getting comments here on Facebook.
That's
and stuff.
Awesome.
And then Nora celebrated. I'm a big old weirdo, and I am okay. Good for you, Nora. Thanks. I've met her. She awesome. Is. I'm kidding. Andy, thank you so much for joining me today. You've really shared a lot of great stuff. And the big takeaway for me is that when I say I'll do something, I need to estimate the time involved and put can I get it done by this certain date? And is that going to work for you? So thank you.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you. Jen, it's always a pleasure. You're doing such great things in the world, and I really appreciate you. Keep me part of your circle.
I love being part, and thank you for being part of my circle. Everybody out there, please give us a like, comment, share, all that good stuff. Go find Andy. He's got many levels of service, and that's what I always tell entrepreneurs. Have many ways for people to get value from you, not just your paid stuff. He's got free stuff. He's got different levels, so you can do the motivational talk. You can do personal sessions. You can buy his books. There's a lot of ways to work with Andy. So please go do that.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, and if you want to try hypnosis, if you're out there, you're like, I really want to try hypnosis, go to my website, jimkellnerhypnotist.com/free-hypnosis. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for watching. Take care. Be well. Be awesome.